And hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Cyrus Webb Presents. We have a special hour coming up for you all today, so I'm glad you all could be here for us as we are wrapping up what has been a great series based on the book by Dr. Teresa A. Smith, or Dr. TAS as we call her here, from this book, Transformation. You all see it there. Today we're discussing weeks 9 and 10, wrapping up the last of her 10 messages that she has in the book. Hey, Shannon, hope all is well. I'm sorry, Shane. Hey, Shane, man. Look, I was giving you another name, Shane. Good to see you, man. Appreciate you being on with us. We're wrapping up what's been a great series with Dr. Todd. Looking forward to this. We started this series in 2021. We then had a reset at the beginning of this year, did a recap of the first 5 messages, and there is Dr. Todd. Going to go ahead and bring her in. And if you guys are not following Dr. Todd, she has a lot of great, you guys, not only here on this platform, but also her YouTube channel. We're going to be reminding you guys of that, how you can stay connected with her. Dr. Todd, how are we?
I am good, Cyrus. How are you?
Doing amazing. You know what? You know that saying, parting is such sweet sorrow, right? I mean, it's
Yes,
we,
it is.
we're wrapping up what has been a really cool journey, I feel like, Taj, with your book, Transformation. 2 very interesting messages, I think, that are timely, I think, for us now. Hello to you, Tanya. Hope all is well with you. Thank you so much for being on with us. If you guys are not following Dr. Taj, this is what we want you all to do. There is a drop-down arrow that is literally right here where my finger is. If you click on that, you'll see me, and then you'll see Dr. Taj there. You can actually follow her directly from our broadcast without even leaving. So make sure you guys give her a follow so you guys can stay connected with all the great things she has coming up for you guys. She has a cooking segment she does on this platform, so you guys can look forward to that. And also some other things as well. So, Taj, before we get into messages 9 and 10 in this hour that we're going to be together, I want to talk about this experience for you. For those who are just finding out about transformation, where did the idea for the book come from?
Cyrus, when I was preparing today, I was thinking back in time. And, as an author yourself, that books just don't happen, that you're writing for quite some time. And so, I think the real impetus for transformation started during the time period that we were trying to figure out what was wrong with me physically. I announced today on Facebook that I have Graves' disease, and it's because of the Graves' disease that I had sleeve surgery. But I was thinking about that journey. And so I think really the idea for transformation began then. And the reason I say that is because the poem at the end, it wound up being called Born Day. But I started writing that poem a long time ago, and it was around that time. And it was about hope and transformation. And so it ultimately became what it is. So it's been a journey.
Yeah, yeah. And now you're able to take the readers on the journey. And again, today we're finishing up the book. So we're doing messages 9 and 10 today. So if you all are just coming in saying, wait a minute, I'm just now finding out about this. What are you guys doing? Don't worry. We have all of the 8 previous messages are actually right here on Instagram. So you guys can go back to our live broadcast, be able to catch up. We did a great recap of the first 5 messages, which we covered in 2021. That video kicked us off for January of this year. So you guys can find all of that actually on our Instagram channel. As I mentioned, Taj has some other things that's going to be coming up as well. So, I mean, you and I have talked about this, Taj. Do you feel as though, even though you released this book to the world in 2021, do you feel like in many ways you were releasing it for yourself as well?
Oh, absolutely, Cyrus. Earlier, it's like everything always works the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
I was meditating on this, and I was thinking about a minister, and I think it was 1993, so I'm really aging myself, but it's a minister here locally. His name is Carl Kenny, and he preached a sermon, and I think it was maybe in October, called, maybe it was 95, I think, God Has a Plan for Your Life. And when he preached that sermon, it was about hope for me. And it was about faith and grace. And he talks towards the end, as you know, those Black ministers, how they start bringing it home. I think he's in Romans 8:35, and he talks about how he knew that God could do all things. but he didn't believe that God could do all things with him. And he stumbled, we never really stumbled, but he came to that scripture. And that scripture tells him, basically tells us that no matter what it is, God can do it. No matter whether we're dealing with homelessness, whether we're dealing with principalities, whatever it is, God has the plan for us. And so for me, when I look at where I am today and where we are with messages 9 and 10, it just reinforces that he has a plan. And even though in theory, we should have finished the book before now. Mm-hmm. But it was all part of the plan. And so my hope is that for those who have been joining us and those who are reading the book, that as they get to the different messages, the messages are speaking to them at the appropriate time in their lives also.
Yeah, I love that. So let's do, because we do have the hour, and then for our audience, that may seem like a lot of time, but TAS and I can tell you that that time flies by. So I want to spend as much time as we can with messages 9 and 10, because that will wrap up the book. But I do want to do just a really quick recap, TAS, for those who are just coming in, may have missed the other messages. I want to at least go through the names of them for them. Message 1, change is challenging. Number 2, free will. Message 3, primary focus. Message 4, staying on track. Message 5, persecution. Message 6, embrace humility. And message 7, running on empty. And then that brings us, of course, to message 8, which is positive self-talk. We did that last week, TAS. And now we're at messages 9 and 10. And these are, when I was prepping for this, I thought, how interesting that we are wrapping up with these two, even though in some ways we've discussed them interwoven with some of the other messages. So the first message we're going to talk about tonight is message number 9 from TAS's book, and that is acting on point, which is an interesting chapter title, but this is what we're able to see by what TAS means by this. Self-examination is key is the subtitle there. I want to talk about this, TAS, because you and I have talked about this topic throughout these messages. One of the things you talk about is not only the assignment, but those who we try to bring with us on the assignment, right? And it goes to whatever the goal may be. Whatever we're talking about, a physical transformation, the audience is trying to make an internal transformation. They're trying to make, whether they're thinking about a change in their jobs. Our association and that examination are so important. How has that helped you as you've been on your transformation, TAS, to realize the importance of stopping and self-reflecting and doing that self-examination?
Oh, Cyrus, it's been really crucial. When you don't do the self-examination, you'll find yourself going down the wrong path. I have the cooking show in the kitchen with TAS. Is what I was labeling, but it's really TAS in the kitchen. But because I'm in the kitchen, but I'm using this as an analogy. As a young girl, I learned how to bake from scratch. And so you don't really do it. Well, you really should do it this way now. But you have a sifter. You put your flour or your dry goods in this bowl, and you put them in the sifter, and you turn it. Well, as you do that, you're getting out all the fine flour or whatever falls to the bowl that you're putting it in. But what you're left with when you shake that sifter is those little hard pieces that were not fine enough to go through. And what I want you to understand is there are going to be people that are going to be part of your life, and they're going to be right there with you in the thick of things. But when you start getting down to those fine details and being on purpose and being focused on what your goals are, you're going to find that some of those people will not come through the sifter. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just that their time with you has ended. Just as you pull the flour and whatever, the baking soda, baking powder out of the containers, you put it all together, then you sift. But all of it doesn't come because all of it's not meant to come. So for me, whether we're looking at personal, we're looking at professional, it's very important to do that self-examination. And it's something that only you can do. Because nobody else knows what you really think and what you really feel on the inside. So you have to do that work.
Yeah. I've talked about on another platform, TAS, my epiphany I had with this topic. And I was getting upset with some people who, and it's funny talking about it now because, like you just said, it wasn't even them, it was me. And what I thought they should be doing because I saw something in them or I wanted them to be with me on, on a project. But it was very obvious from their actions that they were not interested in being, they were supportive, but they were not interested in being in the role I wanted them to be in. And you know me, I'm all about trying to pull people with me. Hey, Melissa, good to see you. And I was getting upset, and I was venting to a friend, a mutual friend of ours, Earl Hall. And I was saying to Earl, I just don't understand. I'm offering them this opportunity. I'm giving them this, this thing. And then as I was saying it, I'm like, you know what? But they never asked me. As I'm saying it out to him, why I'm upset, it then occurred to me, I'm upset for something they never even asked for. They just wanted to support me. I wanted to get them so that they could do what I was doing, but they never asked for that. And it goes to the point that you're making here, Todd, which is why when I read this initially, I thought, you know what? That's another confirmation of, and we can do it. I had good intention. Yes. I wanted people to win. I wanted people to do something, but it wasn't what they were meant to do. It was not their assignment to do. And I think that's where we do get in trouble is, well, I think that goes both ways though, Todd, right? That we can want people to do something that's not meant for them, or we try to put people in a role that they weren't meant to be in our lives, on our journey, and they end up keeping us from transforming because we're so connected to them, right?
Absolutely. And Cyrus, I was thinking as you were talking, and you kind of touched on it there, when you talk about we keep them in our life and they hold us up on our journey, or we don't even get to the end of the journey. But then my question becomes, why do we do that? Yeah. Is it that we are feeling insecure, or that we have a need? I got this thing about needs and desires. Yeah. Do we have a need that they are fulfilling, but by them fulfilling that need, we don't transform? Because challenges, the growth comes through the challenges. Yeah. And when I say you have to embrace the challenges or the situation, the issues, whatever it is, people get upset with me. But if I don't embrace that, then I don't grow. Yeah. If I keep skirting the issue, where's the growth going to come from? It's like when people pray for patience. Yeah. Y'all pray for patience, because how do you get patience? You've got to go through something in order to develop patience. But if you want to pray for that, that's fine. But again, if I don't go through it, if I don't deal with the trauma that I experienced as a child, how will I ever be able to walk in whomever I was created to be? Because I didn't learn the lessons that I need. And so when we look at holding people to us that perhaps need to go, I wonder sometimes, is it because they are really a crutch for us? But we don't see it that way. I have to say this, because this is a scripture that I really like. The scripture basically says this, and I want you guys to remember this. I might butcher it a little bit, but the essence of it is very true. They went out from us, for they were not of us. But if they had been of us, truly, they would have continued on with us. Yeah. You can't drag people with you who are not supposed to be with you. Yeah. And you have to understand that it doesn't mean they're bad people. It doesn't mean your relationship wasn't good. It doesn't mean anything except it's time for you to part company with them. But you've got to be secure enough in yourself to do that. And sometimes that deals with that self-examination. And then, as you said, Cyrus, the other messages that we've talked about through the throughout the book. Yeah. I want to mention, hey to you, TNL Radio, good to see you. Unapologetically Unjaded said a really good point, Todd. She said, I stopped focusing on what people were or weren't doing and just focused on what I was doing. And that was the game changer for me. And that is so true. And, I will say this, too, to the point you're making, and you make a really good point. In my situation, when I was examining my situation, what I was going through, I just wanted to see other people win. That was my thing. I was doing my thing, as you know, and I was like, I want to offer them this opportunity to do it. Here it is, so you can do it. And they weren't doing it. So I was getting mad
about it. But again, they never asked me. It would have been different if they had asked me and then didn't do it. I just said, hey, I'm doing this and doing well. I want you all to do well here. You know, and when they didn't take it, I was like, I got offended. But then I'm like, okay, Cyrus, you're getting upset with them, and that's on you. You made that decision. They never said, hey, Cyrus, I want to do that. You know, will you give me the opportunity or help me with the opportunity to do X, Y, or Z? And that's why I think this is such an important message. For those who are just coming in, we're discussing Dr. TAS Smith's book, Transformation, message number 9, which is acting on point. The subtitle is Self-Examination is Key. You also mentioned talking about scripture, ties. The scripture you use in this one is 2 Corinthians 6:14 through 18. And in the translation that you shared, part of it says, don't continue to team up with unbelievers in mismatched alliance. And I think that goes to another point of what we're talking about here. A lot of times when we're trying to transform or change or grow or evolve, we have to make sure we're not part of our problem in being able to do, like what I was saying. I was upset with someone for doing something they never even asked to do. Now, it would have been a different situation if they had been trying to keep me from doing something that I was meant to do. Hey, to you, Kimberly, good to see you. What do you want our audience to know about that in reference to the scripture there, Todd, at 2 Corinthians 6:14 through 18, about the importance of making sure they're not part of their own problem when it comes to not being able to transform?
You know, Cyrus, I think that, you know, we use the term iron sharpens iron, but let's think about what we're really saying. The iron that sharpens the iron, they are alike. So when it comes to trying to birth something, you have to start associating with individuals who have the same or similar visions, who are going in the same direction. The individuals that you knew previously, there's nothing wrong with them. Right. It's nothing wrong with their vision. And that's the thing that I think sometimes I think it's hard for people to understand that you can still be friends, but not like the exact same things. Because we think because we're in this group or that group, even though we know people are different, but we still think everybody wants the exact same thing. Right. And you have to be secure enough in yourself to realize, no, I don't necessarily want that, or I don't want that right now. And so once you can get your brain wrapped around it, then you have to start aligning yourself with individuals who are going in the direction that you're going in. It may be also that you need retraining, because now you're focused on doing this versus that. Well, do you have any training in that area? And also, training is not always formalized training sometimes, because you may have enough transferable skills that you need a coach to help you to map out, how do I take those skills, retool them, repackage them so that I can now do this. It may be you do some on-the-job training. It may be some job shadowing. It could be any number of things. But the thing is, you've got to now shift from going this direction and going this direction. And that means sometimes, unfortunately, you have to change your peeps. You've got to shift who you're actually with. Because think about it. I can hear my mother saying, this birds of a feather flock together. But that's many meanings to that. Meaning that you're wanting to be a hairstylist. Well, I decided I don't want to be a stylist anymore. So if I'm wanting to be a chef, I need to start being around individuals who are pursuing that occupation. Yeah, that's how iron sharpens iron. So that the alliance is so critical, because what's happening is you're feeding each other. You're keeping each other motivated. Your external motivations are helping fuel your internal, and then vice versa.
Such a great point. And to that point, it goes to what you give us in what is the Gleam recap for this particular message, Taz. Identify your areas of growth and play to your strengths. You know, one thing I learned early on is that I can't do everything. And the truth of the matter is, none of us should want to do everything. I mean, because if you're trying to do everything, you're not going to really be able to focus and really give your best to one thing. But how has that helped you? Because I know for myself, when I think about that, I have really doubled down in my strengths. Hey, Dennis, good to see you. And what I know I'm good at. And one of those things is communication. That's one of my strengths. So I really play to that. Other things I realize, you know what? Yeah, maybe I could do that. I don't really like to do that. It is not really where I would consider a strong point. So I find somebody that graphics is a perfect example. You and I were talking about this recently, and I was telling you, it shout out to Dominique Wilkins, who's been doing my graphics now the past 8 years. Because could I do it? Yes. Am I as good as Dominique? No. Do I have the time? No, not really. I really don't have the time to even do it. So it's great to be able to find people who can do the magazine covers, do my flyers for me, and all of that, because otherwise, that is not me playing to my strengths. But how important has it been for you, Todd, to identify, be honest with you, again, self-examination, to be honest with yourself about what you really are good at?
Cyrus, is so important, and it's amazing what you'll find that you can do. There are things that I have discovered since I have begun to act on point that I didn't think that I could do. But I amaze myself that I can do it. So what I'm finding is that I had strengths that I never even knew I had, because I had been playing to other strengths and I wasn't really surveying all that was me. And so as a result of that, I was sort of stagnant. I was good at one thing. Well, I was doing a lot of things, but I was good in this one area. But even myself, I didn't know I could do these other things. But as I said, once I started doing self-examination and acting on point, meaning acting in alliance with what my purpose is, it was amazing the things that I found that I could do that I thought were areas of growth. Now, they are areas of growth, but the growth is happening very quickly.
Yeah. And
that says to me, I had it in me. I just never knew it was there.
Yeah. And is that then, Todd, why we have to self-examine? Because again, it goes to that Whitney Houston song, I didn't know my own strength, right? Yes. We don't really know until we do take out that time to examine, right?
Absolutely. And I think, Cyrus, sometimes we don't want to examine it because we're afraid of what we're going to find out. It's just like being in a relationship and you're trying to determine if you're going to leave the relationship. It's the fear factor, and we become comfortable with our routine. We become comfortable with whoever we're in a relationship with. I'm comfortable with what I know that I can do. Yeah. I can do a lot of things and I'm comfortable with that. I don't want to stretch myself. Not right now. And I think when we do that, I think that's an example of getting in your own way. And then, time passed and you're like, I never accomplished it. But were you consistently applying yourself, or were you your own roadblock? And sometimes we're our own roadblock. And, I wonder if we have expectations that mirror our strengths and our gifts, or do we unintentionally have expectations for ourselves that are less than? And so therefore we're afraid to try because we don't believe that we can do it.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. For those who are just tuning in, you're watching Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm here with Dr. Teresa A. Smith here on Instagram. You guys know her as Dr. Teresa Smith. We're talking about her newest book. It's called Transformation. It's appropriate as we're wrapping up the month of January. That today we're wrapping up the last two messages from Dr. TAS's book. The message that we're talking about right now is message number 9. That message is acting on point, or as the subtitle says, self-examination is key. Let's go then to the reflect and connect, and TAS. Two of the questions I want to focus on here before we go into message number 10. One, and I think this is interesting. What is the relationship between your potential and your assignment? Why is that an important question for us to ask ourselves about our potential and our assignment?
Well, everyone has potential and everyone has an assignment, but that doesn't mean that my potential, it doesn't mean that my assignment is my potential. Let me say it a different way. I have an assignment and I have lots of potential. I'm good in lots of different areas. But that doesn't mean that one of those areas is my assignment. And so therefore, you have to understand who you are as a human being first, what your skill sets are, and then what your assignment is. Because the things that you're good at, they're just there to help with the assignment and not the other way around. And I think sometimes we try to make our assignment fit the skill set, meaning we're supposed to be going south. That's the assignment, but we want to go north, and it just doesn't work that way. And so that's the reason why I think that you have to examine that, because we hear the word potential. You have such potential. Like with your example with the person that you were trying to give them something to help them, they didn't ask for it. You saw an opportunity for them. You saw potential.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't see that. And what I was thinking when you were talking about that, Cyrus, think about the pressure and stress that you were really giving that person. Because now I'm torn. Do I do what Cyrus is suggesting, or do I do what I think I'm supposed to do, or even what I want to do? And so, again, that's the reason why it's important to always examine the two, because it's constantly changing. Because as we go through life experiences, as we work or whatever, our potential changes. And then sometimes the assignment becomes clearer, because we only see it one way. It's like we're given a puzzle, and we get a piece of the puzzle with every challenge. We get a piece of the puzzle with every experience, but we don't see the picture. So we're trying to fit the puzzle pieces together to give us the assignment or that final destination, but we don't know. So in order for us to reach the final destination, we've got to constantly examine those puzzle pieces and see if we can see a connection, and then we're building our way to the final destination. In education, I learned the phrase, we're flying the plane as we're building it. So basically, you're building this plane and you're flying it at the same time. So all the pieces are not there, but you're headed somewhere, but you don't know exactly where you're going.
Yeah, and that goes to a point we talked about a couple of weeks ago here, TAS, and that is, this is an ongoing process. We're not going to get it right just because our viewers make it to the end of this book today with us. We're not going to have this all figured out, because we are all still figuring it out. We're all still transforming in the ongoing process, as we should. The second question is the second one that's in the book too, under Reflect and Connect. Do you depend on God or depend on man to qualify you for success? Now, I thought this was an interesting question for us, because it goes to the point you were just making, that sometimes we're trying to do what other people think we should do, or we want people to do what we think they should do, rather than what may be their God-given assignment to do. Talk to us about that, though, in the connection with success, TAS.
I posted something this morning. I always butcher something, but there was a quote from Maya Angelou. It was talking about success. And, basically the essence of it is you have to be comfortable in your skin and with the decisions that you're making. Every day is a success.
Yeah.
The mere fact that we are able to get up in the morning, do whatever it is that we do during the day, get us up and down. We don't necessarily get everything done. But then at the end of the day, we're able to stop working, have something to eat, maybe watch a show or two, go to bed, get back up and do it again. That's a success when you are okay with what you did and what you accomplished. So when we talk about success, I always say that you don't use someone else's barometer to measure your success. So therefore, I cannot let man quantify it. I can't let them qualify it. I can't let them verify it. I can't let them do anything, because they are human beings just like me. They're up and down all day long. People, you look at them and you think they got it going on. Well, they do have it going on. But just like anyone else, they have struggles that they're dealing with. So if I'm going to look to them to say whether I should do this or I should do that, then it's interesting that I'm going to give my power, the power to make decisions about my life, I'm going to give it to someone who knows nothing really about my life.
Mm-hmm.
They only know what they see. Because when I was prepping for this, I thought about all the people that I knew when I started the poem and when this book really was being born. None of them knew the depth of my illness. Because in addition to the thyroid issue, I had a mass. And we found the mass by mistake, but nothing's a mistake. I should say by coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't figure out what it was. And so the type of person that I am, they said it wasn't cancer, but I have this mass. I said, well, we got to get it out. Because if we know that it's there, we got to get this out. And they said we'd have to, open up they'd have to go through my breastbone. And so what that meant to me was you're talking like old surgery with heart surgery where they would crack open somebody's chest.
Yeah.
I knew that would change my life forever if that happened. Well, all the people that I knew, all the people that I was in organizations with, doing things with, they had not a clue that I was dealing with that. So my point is, why are we going to look to man to qualify us to do an assignment that God has given us instead of looking to God because he knows all? Man only knows what you share with them. And even then, our brains are good, don't get me wrong, but we can't understand the depth of what someone is truly experiencing. Because we just can't, because everybody experiences it differently. And that's really the beauty of being unique human beings. So no, my thing is, when it comes to qualifying you for success, it's a God thing. God has to be in you. Plus you then have to look at every day from a reasonable perspective, because you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're looking for somebody just blow up overnight. It doesn't happen that way. Every now and then it will. But for most people, if you look at the people that we watch in the movies, they have been at their craft for years before they get their big breakthrough. So again, it's a process. So you celebrate every day's success. And the more you celebrate, then your mindset has shifted, Cyrus, which means you're acting on point. So the more you celebrate, the more you'll have to celebrate because you're seeing the world differently.
Yeah. The thing I thought about, Todd, with that particular question too, as I was thinking about it for myself, do you depend on God or depend on man to qualify you for success? I think it goes to two, how we have put success and what we now call success. Because success is not necessarily what we as human beings call it. That is just a thing, right? I mean, because for a lot of people, success does not equate into peace of mind, does not equate even into having a relationship with God. And so what I thought about was so many times we can be so busy trying to attain to what man thinks qualifies us as being successful, and we miss out on what God actually intended for us to do, which is why for some of us we don't transform, because we are so busy trying to become what man thinks a success looks like instead of what God calls that too. We have a viewer joining us from Ghana. Welcome to you. Glad to have you on with us as we are talking about Dr. Theresa A. Smith's book, Transformation. We were just discussing message number 9 from the book, which is really a powerful one. And that one is all about, I think, something that all of us need to be able to do, TAS, and that is, because the subtitle says, do a self-examination. The title, though, is acting on point. That does lead us to our final message, which is opinions. And I'm actually going to read this because I thought this was really interesting. For those who have the book, the print edition of the book, Transformation, is available now in print as well as a Kindle edition. If you have the print edition, on page 46, Todd says this about message 10. Opinions are beliefs or perceptions about an individual condition or thing that may or may not be supported by facts. Positions have to be fact-checked because there are so many. When someone shares their viewpoint, it is essential to understand what grounds their belief. Then you say this: as human beings, we seek other people's schools of thought on many subjects. And sometimes people volunteer their perspective without our asking. The assumption is that if someone provides a view, it is the right, unbiased view, and the receiver will respond accordingly. However, it's reckless to act on information that has not been vetted. Always screen information that stands for bias, intended or unintended, and for accuracy. Now, TAS, I love this message, but I'm sure someone's going to ask, what does this have to do with transformation? So I want you to break this down. Well, let me tell you what I got from it as the reader, and then I'm curious as to what you. So if I'm reading this, as I just read it for our audience there, what I think about too is, as we're having this conversation about who's to say that you have not transformed based on their perception of us. Because on the outside, we may look the same, which means for them, transformation is something that's external. When for us, we may look the same, but we can be a totally different being because of the work that we've been doing. Not only based on these messages, but just on our own, as you were talking about earlier, our assignment. Now, we can have someone else say, well, you look the same way you did a year ago or 5 years ago. But that what their opinion is their perception of how they view our transformation. It doesn't necessarily mean that we are the same person. But to me, it also goes the other way, Todd, as I was reading this. We can look at someone, and I was going to say a name, I'm not going to say that name, but someone who was looked at as being a good husband. He ended up being convicted of murder for killing his wife and unborn child. You know, now people would look at him and say, he was a good guy. He went to work. You know, he looked like a good guy, you know, but it does not mean that he had not changed for the worse internally. So is that kind of what you want us to know here, that to be careful of the opinions of others when it comes to our own personal transformation journey?
It is, Cyrus, because again, as you said it so eloquently, you only see the external. And externally, I may have changed, but the change that's most important is the internal change. Because again, and that's something that no one can see but me, and perhaps those that I interface with. But over time, they'll begin to see it. Because again, even with change and transformation, we're going to have times where we slip back into the old person. You know, I call it, is it my 2021 person? This is really what I say to somebody. Was I acting in 2021, Teresa, or was it a 2022? And they'll say to me, no, that was that 2021, Teresa. I'm like, oh, yeah. And I said, I thought so. Because what happens is, for me, and it is true, I'll be 2021, Teresa, because I did something right as before 2022 came, but I had already shifted, and I knew that. Well, then what the universe did was, or God, as I would normally say, things started to happen that did not let me do what 2021 Teresa would have done. And I saw it happening, and I'm like, okay, as it began to unfold, I'm like, oh, you made a decision out of the Teresa from 2021 and back. Because I made a decision in December. And it just didn't go well. And then once it wasn't going well, I was a little bit nipped as we went into 2022. And it was trying to interfere with things that were important. I was nipped. But I had to realize, Cyrus, much like you said, that I was nipped at myself because I made a decision out of my old mind, out of my old way of thinking, and I shouldn't have, because I didn't have the time. And when the deadline hit a couple of weeks ago, like everything just went wrong. And it was like, I can't get this done. But again, I had to blame myself. And it's no blame games, guys. It's just that shows that when you've done something so long, for so long, it is a process to stop doing it. And so I call it, you know, am I making a decision out of 2022, Teresa, or is it 2021 or before? And that's going to have to become sort of the way I look at things, because there are just certain things that I've always done. And I can't do those things anymore. But again, for someone looking at it occur, and I don't know how the person feels about it, we haven't discussed it. But it has crossed my mind this past week. We haven't discussed it. But they don't know what they did that was, but I think they do know what they did that was inappropriate, but they don't know what was happening with me at the time that they did it. And so the best thing for me to do was to do an examination, self-examination, and determine what I needed to do. And I had to continue to go straight and not go left or right. But certainly, I think that, opinions are significant, and this person's opinion may have changed of me. And if it did, that's okay, because that says to me that whatever we were supposed to get from our relationship, then we both got it. But it also allowed me to see another side of them, because I'm not going to indicate which gender it is. It allowed me to see another side of them. And I thought, I don't like this side. Because, you just can't talk to people that way. You just can't do that. You still have to have the niceties. Even if you're in a hurry, you still have to have the niceties. Right. And that told me a lot about them, but I also understand they're under a lot of pressure because we're working on a timeline, on a deadline. So, but yeah, I think, Cyrus, when I wrote this, it was important for me to make sure that the reader understood, as you said, no matter where they are in their transformation process, that they remain secure in themselves. Because we know we always have people say, "Oh, I don't see anything. I'm gonna use weight because I can use weight. Oh, I don't see where you lost no weight." And I said just the way they say it. I don't see where you lost no weight. Now you've gone to the doctor, and the doctor has confirmed what your scale said at home that you've lost 4 pounds. And you have to about them 4 pounds. Your clothes fit different. I've been there. Your clothes fit a little different, and then somebody says to you, "I don't see where you lost no weight." You feel some kind of way. Well, I want the reader to understand, don't take on that person's perspective because they don't know. They're only looking at what they see. You know what your scales say. Your scales were confirmed by what the doctor's scales say. You lost 4 pounds. You celebrate your success. And don't let that person's opinion, which we had to fact check it. That's the reason I said your scales and the doctor's scales, because sometimes our scales don't match up. But it did. So you know that what they're saying has no truth to it. Yeah. And I like to think that people are not intentionally being hurtful. They're just speaking out of what they can see.
I'll go with that. but we do know, especially online, TAS, some people don't care. They'll just say something, and sometimes they say things that are inappropriate or hurtful because they know it's going to get a rise out of people. And even Oprah has talked about this, that she's had to stop herself from responding to negativity online because you end up going down this rabbit hole on someone's opinion. It doesn't even matter about what you're doing in the first place or not. You're still going to be who you are, right? You say in the Gleam recap for this message of opinions, don't get sidetracked, instead fact check. And that goes to the point you were making about the scale. We can get into this arguing match, and it can happen before we even think about it. Because look, I've been in a situation, I had a situation happen about 5 years ago where an organization had said something and they were going by something, and it wasn't even, come to find out, it wasn't even me, but they heard conversations and they thought it was me. And my ego, I know exactly what it was. My ego got involved in it, as happens, And short people in our egos, we think we big. I get up on my tippy toes, and I be ready to defend myself. but then I was like, Cyrus, wait a minute. You're doing all this doesn't even matter. It has nothing to do with you. It wasn't even you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that to me shows the importance of this topic for me as a reader, TAS, with transformation, because I call it my inner Pookie. I have my inner Pookie that comes out sometimes. You talked about your 2021. I have my Pookie. And so I tell people, look, you don't want Pookie to come. I'm a nice guy, fairly nonviolent. you want to keep it. Let's keep this thing, But that's the thing. We can be doing so good, and someone says something, that is not based in truth, but we get so into it. We get so much validity into that. And so I think it's appropriate and interesting that you chose this. Was that by happenstance that opinions end up being the last thing, Todd? Or did you go into it thinking that you can be doing so good and someone comes with their opinion and you have to fight so how did it come up that this ended up being number 10?
You know, the book is much larger than this, but I decided to do chunks. And as I was trying to narrow it down for this edition of the book, I chose opinions last just because of the fact, you know, a lot of us, may have had some traumatic events happen in our lives growing up in our formative years. And so we replay those messages over and over again in our head. And so we make progress and then remember somebody said, oh, you can't do this, or oh, this or that. And so I wanted folks to have something to hang their hat on. And if nothing else, when they finish the book, I want them to know that opinions do not define who you are. Like I said, you gotta sift through it because everybody got one. And people are so quick to tell you what they think about you, but you are not permitted to tell them what you think about them. And so because of that power dynamic, I wanted folks to leave. It's almost like it's an affirmation. Leave with the knowledge that you don't have to let what someone says about you make you feel less than, make you feel that you're not transforming, that you're not making progress. You don't have to take their opinion in consideration at all.
Yeah.
Because it's just that an opinion. But at the same time, I want to say this, Cyrus, on the flip side. If you happen to be a person who likes to give your opinion and then get upset when people don't take your advice, you need to understand they don't have to take your advice.
Right.
That's your opinion. You can only make opinions to provide an opinion based upon your knowledge. And you never know everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes the person doesn't know everything. So don't get upset if somebody doesn't take your opinion and apply it.
Yeah.
People have free will.
Yeah. That's the thing. And that ties in perfectly, ties with the Reflect and Connect. I want to mention two of these here. Hello to you, Eileen. Good to see you. Stacy, good to see you as well. I think that's author Sharmel. Glad you could join us as well. There's two of the questions I wanted to mention here. And one ties in exactly what we were just talking about. The first one, is the opinion offered relevant to the current situation or topic? And this goes to all of us. And that's why I've been talking about a lot lately, ties. Social media is an amazing thing. Both of us would agree. It's really helped us in reaching a larger audience, amplifying our messages, building community, all of that. However, not everyone uses social media the way you and I have chosen to use it. And for some people, I saw something recently and I thought to myself, of all the things you could be doing, why are you taking the time to go on someone's post and say something inappropriate or give your opinion about them? And it was really their opinion, right? One of my friends had posted a TikTok video on Instagram, and they were doing a dance, and I would say over half the comments, ties, were about him pulling up his pants.
Oh.
You need to pull up your pants. Had nothing to do with there was no conversation in his video about sagging pants. If you look at 90% of his content, you'll see he sags his pants, right?
Oh.
So why they felt like, because his video had gone viral, that was a comment that they wanted to put. Now, people can decide if he needs to pull up his, that's but again, what does that have to do with us, right? And to the point of this question, he can look at that and say, okay, well, maybe I should pull up my pants. He could, or he may say, that's your opinion. I wear whatever I want to wear the way I want to wear it. Is that kind of what you mean in this particular question, Taz, about is the opinion offered relevant to the current situation?
Exactly, Cyrus. And with the example that you gave, if 90% of his content has his pants sagging, what were they talking about?
Yeah.
And you see, for me, if I'm thinking about from his perspective, what I want him to see is you had a video. First of all, you wear sagging pants, so that's a that has nothing to do with this.
Hmm.
You had a video because you were dancing and it went viral. There's always going to be naysayers. And to me, that's what that is. Those are naysayers because now you're having some success. But if he tunes in to their frequency, then he's not going to celebrate his success because he may even revamp
Yeah.
what he determines success is. And
Yeah.
here it is, he's got more likes or whatever it is with this one video
Yeah.
than perhaps all of the others. But now he's going to feel like, well, I guess maybe I did something wrong or whatever. Well, you just changed his trajectory because his blueprint, his software shifted. He had you know how the computer does an upgrade and you didn't want it to do an upgrade?
Yeah.
It's like his mind upgraded, his consciousness, his heart, but it was not a positive upgrade.
Yeah.
And they are not qualified to do that. And that's the reason we have to be so careful and be protective of who we are, what our assignments are, what our gifts are, because people will come and do an upgrade on us and we won't even realize that's what's happening.
Yeah.
So, we just have to look at opinions for what they are.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Eileen has a good comment here, Todd. She says people like to talk derogatory about others when it's really about themselves and what they're going through. And that is so true. In fact, I will say, and to get the other side of this, Todd, there are people there saying, look, that's his style. I mean,
yeah.
so he had his support system in there. But I thought to myself, okay, if they look at any of his other videos, he's this one was to a trending song, I guess, is how this one ended up going viral. But you will see he danced. His dress style was the same in the other videos. You know what I'm saying? So this was not something new he did to try to go viral. But he happened to be on the trend, and it just really goes to how, like you said, it's kind of like what I love to connect it to what you said earlier, Todd, about the 4 pounds, where someone's saying, well, you don't look like you lost any weight, and you were excited about the 4 pounds you lost. You could make someone feel bad, and they should be celebrating the fact that they lost those 4 pounds, And so we have to be so careful in that when it comes to listening to the opinions. To that point, Todd, the second question I want to go over is this. I love this. What does your gut tell you? Because sometimes, now my mom used to call me Little George Bush to show you. I told you about my little inner Pookie. My mom used to call me Little George Bush, and it used to bother me, but then I started laughing. I realized, okay, yeah, I understand why she calls me. so I understood she perceived my Pookie as a little authoritarian. You know what I'm saying? So I took that counsel and said, you know what? That's her opinion. But if I was honest, don't tell her I said that. But it was rooted in some truth. So is that kind of what you want us to ask ourselves? Because there are times where someone's opinion is actually valid, right?
Oh, absolutely. And the thing about the gut, Cyrus, I've had quite a few surgeries. And one of the times I had surgery, I had butterflies. And it was like somebody was pounding me in my gut. And so that's when I realized that those butterflies, that sensation is really telling us something. It's a real body warning system. So what is your gut telling you? Is your gut giving you the butterflies, or is your gut kind of calm? If your gut is giving you butterflies, then that means you need to really examine what's coming to you. Why is it coming to you? What is the purpose of it? What is the objective? Have you been in contact with this person recently? But if you feel good, then go with it.
Yeah.
But if your gut is telling you no, then you need to listen to your gut. I mean, it's a gut check.
Yeah, love that. Taz, we've come to the end of what has been a remarkable journey that we began here in 2021, discussing your book transformation. Again, want to remind our audience, it is available on Amazon right now in print, as well as a Kindle edition. Definitely, as you can see, there's a lot in here. we've scratched the surface in the hours that we've discussed it here on this platform. But Taz, what do you want people to know by the time they finish watching this segment? Let's say they've watched all 10 of our episodes dealing from transformation. What do you want them to know about what is possible for them when it comes to transformation?
Cyrus, I want the reader or the person who's watching the videos to understand that they can transform, that the transformation doesn't happen overnight, and that you have to be your own cheerleader.
Yeah.
When it looks like the world is against you or your family or your friends, they don't understand what you need or they don't understand what you're even talking about because transforming may be foreign language to them. They may not realize that there's a need to shift and grow into the best version of yourself. I hope that what we've talked about, and I hope that the messages will help the individual to understand that it is a lifelong process and that there are going to be good days. There are going to be days that are not so good, but don't give up. And the most important thing is to be honest with yourself. Nobody can transform if they're not honest with themselves.
Yeah.
You know, when you're going through this, you don't need to deal with your representative. You need to deal with you.
Yeah.
Because that's when you can really get the work done. I remember when we started, a friend of mine reached out on social media and he said, "This is hard work." And I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, the questions, the reflect and connect, be honest. You got to be honest with yourself because you are the person that is going to benefit from this process. Others may benefit, you know, vicariously, but this is about you. And I guess the other thing I would say, Cyrus, and I know I could be long-winded, but you know, I'm thinking about this. The hardest thing sometimes for us to do is to love ourselves and to take care of ourselves. This is a step in that direction because this is all about you. It's not about anybody else. And then I would say, Cyrus, whatever you find out, understand that, and we heard the speaker speaking about this yesterday at the conference, and you know, people do the best that they can given where they were and where they are in life. Don't let what happened to you determine who you are going to be for the rest of your life. It was an event. And I was molested as a child. That was an event. That doesn't determine who I am. And how people responded, perhaps they didn't respond the way I wanted them to. But I can't keep carrying that with me because that's hurting me. It doesn't hurt them. And understanding that people give us what they know to give us. That's all they can. And you can't hold that against them. So I hope that as folks go through the book, listen to our sessions, that they gain the inspiration and the motivation and the encouragement to continue on when things get a little tough in their lives, regardless of what aspect that they're transforming in.
Love that. Again, everyone, Dr. Teresa A. Smith, Dr. TAS. We're getting some thank yous and some hands. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that, Stacy, as well. Again, make sure you guys get your copy of the book. And TAS, how can they stay connected with you and the other things you have going on, including TAS in the Kitchen?
Well, you can catch up with me here on Instagram, Dr. Teresa Smith. Also, I am TAS in the Kitchen. I am doing live kitchen demonstration. As someone said to me, do a demonstration. I said, just watch, it's coming. I'm cooking live in the kitchen here on Instagram. I'm also uploading those shows to my YouTube channel. So you've got to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, I am going to be premiering my new show, Transform with TAS, coming soon in the next couple of months. So you don't want to miss that. It's all about how you can take lemons and make lemonade, make lemon meringue pie, whatever you want to do with lemons. But it's about really just taking what life gives you and then transforming that. And I've got some great folks that are going to be on the show with me. And believe it or not, we're going to be in the kitchen. And we're just going to have a good time in the kitchen. So I hope that you will join us.
All right, so a lot for us to look forward to. TAS, I've enjoyed going through the book with you, enjoyed this time. I hope our audience will go back, watch all of the sessions of messages 1 through 10. Today we discussed in this special messages 9 and 10, but you can go back and catch up on the other 8 right here on our IG Live or on Dr. Taz's YouTube channel. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great one. Take care.
Thank you.